The universe is not some faraway power that decides at random what will happen in your life. It is not an external force detached from your existence. It is the mirror that faithfully reflects back to you the image you hold within yourself. Every circumstance, every event, every person that appears in your path is nothing more than the projection of what has been, nurtured and entertained within your consciousness. This is why two people may walk through the same city, yet live in entirely different worlds. One may find only struggle, disappointment, and closed doors, while another discovers opportunity, kindness, and beauty at every turn. The difference does not lie in the city or in the world, but in the invisible assumptions each carries within. When you begin to see that the outer world is reflective rather than causative, you understand that you are not at the mercy of life. Life is at the mercy of what you dare to believe. Every day, the universe ranges itself to echo back to you the inner conversations you have been holding, the beliefs you have accepted, and the feelings you continue to dwell in. This is why no effort spent solely in rearranging outer conditions ever brings lasting change. If you wish to see transformation, you must go directly to the root. And the root is always within your own consciousness. Think of the universe as a vast mirror. If you stand before it and frown, it will not return a smile. If you scowl, it does not grin. The mirror is obedient. It does not argue, and it does not reason. It gives back what it receives. The same is true of life. If you move through the day with the deep-seated conviction that the world is against you, that money is scarce, that love is distant, then the universe simply reflects that conviction in the form of circumstances, encounters, and events that confirm your belief. But if you carry within the feeling that you are supported, that life bends to your favor, that abundance and companionship are natural to you, the universe must reflect that as well. This understanding shifts responsibility entirely. No longer can you blame chance, fate, or other people for the state of your life. At first, this may feel heavy, because it leaves no room for excuses. Yet when you grasp the depth of it, it is the most liberating truth you could ever discover. If everything outside is only a reflection of what is entertained inside, then all change begins not by waiting for circumstances to shift, but by boldly altering the assumptions that form the core of your consciousness. An assumption is not a casual thought. It is not something you toy with for a moment before moving on. An assumption is a seed. It is the quiet acceptance of something as true, even before it shows itself in the outer world. To assume is to declare within yourself, "It is so." That silent declaration contains all that is needed to bring about the visible manifestation. Just as a seed planted in the soil already contains within it the blueprint of the tree, so every assumption, once planted in the soil of your imagination, contains the power to bring forth a corresponding reality. Most people make assumptions without realizing they are doing so. They assume that life is hard. They assume that opportunities are scarce. They assume that love has passed them by. And because these assumptions are entertained without question, the universe responds by reflecting them as fact. The seed is planted, and the harvest is inevitable. The law does not judge the seed. It does not say this assumption is noble, and that one is unworthy. It simply brings forth in the outer world what has been accepted within. When you understand this, you can no longer afford careless assumptions. You begin to choose with intention the seeds you plant. If the life you desire is one of health, wealth, love, and fulfillment, then you must assume within yourself that these things are already yours. You must claim them in the silence of your imagination. You must walk in your inner world as though the wish were already fulfilled. Do not wait for outer evidence before you believe. The outer evidence only comes because you have dared to assume first. To assume is not to pretend. Pretending is weak because it is done with the awareness that it is not real. Assumption is powerful because it carries conviction. When you assume, you clothe yourself with the state desired. You allow yourself to feel the weight and reality of it even before your senses confirm it. This is the creative act. This is the moment when the universe takes its cue and begins to arrange itself according to the seed you have chosen to plant. There is a difference between wishing and assuming. Wishing keeps the desire at a distance. It says, "I hope one day this may be." Assumption says, "It is already mine, and I live in the end of it now." The one who wishes waits for proof before accepting. The one who assumes accepts before proof and thereby compels proof to appear. That is why assumption is called the seed of reality. Without it, nothing grows. With it, all things are possible. Every assumption, once accepted, sets in motion unseen currents. These currents move through people, events, and circumstances, orchestrating them with perfect precision until the assumption takes shape in your outer world. You may not see how it will come to pass, You do not need to. The seed does not explain to the soil how it will grow into a tree. It simply grows. Your task is not to worry over the method, but to hold fast to the assumption, to nurture it, and to feel its reality until the universe mirrors it back to you. Consider for a moment the countless things you have assumed in the past that became fact. Perhaps you assumed you would never find work, and every attempt seemed to confirm that belief. Perhaps you assumed people could not be trusted, and every new relationship ended in disappointment. Perhaps you assumed success was for others, and every door seemed closed to you. These were not coincidences. They were the harvest of assumptions you carried without even realizing their power. And just as you once assumed lack and limitation, you can now assume abundance and fulfillment. The law remains the same, only the seed changes. When you decide to deliberately assume the state you desire, you place yourself in harmony with the creative law of the universe. You no longer wait for life to prove itself before you believe. You take the daring step of believing first, and in so doing, you give the universe its marching orders. It must respond, for it has no power to resist conviction. Assumption is the command, and reflection is the result. To live this truth is to shift the axis of your entire world. You stop asking, "When will my desire come?" and instead begin asking, "What am I assuming to be true right now?" That simple question reveals the source of every condition in your life. If you do not like the harvest, do not curse the soil. Simply change the seed. Assume differently. Believe differently. Choose a new state and occupy it as though it were already yours. This is not imagination as idle daydreaming. This is imagination as the very power of creation. It is the recognition that within you lies the ability to assume, to claim, to declare something as true, and that this declaration is law to the universe. If the outer world is nothing but a mirror, then assumption is the face you present to it. Change the face, and the reflection must change. Once this becomes clear, you no longer chase after the outer world. You do not wait for circumstances to convince you. You turn within, plant the seed of assumption, and rest in the certainty that what you have accepted will appear. The universe is faithful. It does not delay out of spite or refuse out of judgment. It simply reflects, and the reflection always matches the assumption entertained within. The conversations you hold silently within yourself are far more powerful than the conversations you have allowed with others. Every inner word is charged with creative power, and every dialogue you rehearse in imagination is a command that the universe obeys. What many do not realize is that life is shaped not by external voices, but by the quiet, ceaseless stream of self-talk that runs through the mind day and night. If you wish to know the direction of your future, simply listen to the nature of your inner speech, because it is that speech that sets the tone of your destiny. Imagine a man who constantly says to himself, "I am overlooked, no one appreciates me, success always escapes me." He may never speak those words aloud, but in the hidden chambers of his imagination, he repeats them with conviction. Soon enough, his world will begin to echo them back. Opportunities will seem to pass him by. People will fail to notice his efforts, and success will remain elusive. It is not that fate has singled him out for disappointment, but rather that his inner speech has created the conditions for disappointment to manifest. Now consider another who walks through the same world, but carries different words within. She tells herself, "Life supports me. Doors open easily. I am always guided to the right place." These words, though whispered only in her imagination, are not wasted. They are seeds that shape her encounters and experiences. Strangers will seem unusually kind. Timely opportunities will appear, and circumstances will bend to her favor. It is the same world, but each lives in a different reflection of it because each sustains a different inner dialogue. The universe is compelled to mirror your inner speech, because imagination and speech are inseparable. Every word you speak within carries feeling, and feeling is the vibration that impresses itself upon reality. If you allow inner conversations of fear, doubt, and limitation to dominate, then the world cannot help but answer with conditions that confirm those very fears and doubts. But when you deliberately choose inner conversations that align with the life you desire, you shift the entire direction of your experience. This is why it is not enough to merely think positively for a moment or repeat empty affirmations. These are the moments when the creative law is at work. If you rehearse an argument in your mind, life will provide the stage and the actors for that argument. If you carry on conversations of reconciliation, love, and success, life will unfold in harmony with those conversations. Begin to watch yourself. Notice the tone of your inner talk. Are you constantly preparing for disappointment, imagining failure, or anticipating rejection? Or are you inwardly hearing the voices of others congratulating you, thanking you, loving you, and celebrating your achievements? The choice is always yours, and the universe is always listening. It has no power to deny the script you hand it through your inner speech. It can only play it back in the form of visible experience. Feeling gives life to this speech. A word repeated without feeling is weak, but when clothed with emotion, it becomes a living force. The reason inner conversations are so powerful is because they are rarely cold or empty. They are almost always charged with some degree of emotion, whether of fear, frustration, hope, or joy. That emotional charge is what impresses itself upon the subconscious and calls forth the outer reflection to change your world. Therefore, you must do more than change idle words. You must change the feeling that animates those words. If you say to yourself, "I am successful," while inwardly feeling doubt and emptiness, the words remain barren. But if you say, "I am successful," and allow yourself to feel the warmth, the relief, the gratitude of already being that, then the words are infused with life. That feeling is the bridge that connects the unseen with the seen. Everything begins as unseen potential. Thought by itself is like a sketch on paper, but feeling colors it and makes it vivid. The world is moved not by empty thought, but by thought wrapped in deep emotion. This is why fear can manifest so quickly, because it is often felt with intensity. People fear lack, disease, or rejection with such strong feeling that life rushes to confirm it. Yet the same law works in reverse. When you feel abundance as though it were already yours, when you feel love as though it already surrounds you, when you feel health and vitality coursing through you, the universe must echo that back. That feeling is not something to be forced. It is cultivated by dwelling in the state desired until it becomes natural. For instance, if you wish for a new opportunity, do not strain to feel excitement out of thin air. Instead, imagine the scene that would follow the realization of that desire. Hear a friend's voice congratulating you. See yourself stepping into the place you longed for. Allow the natural emotions of that imagined scene to rise and then rest in them. That resting state is the bridge that carries your desire from the invisible into the visible. When you understand that feeling is the creative bridge, you no longer dismiss your emotions as trivial. You begin to guard them with care. You recognize that indulging in feelings of resentment, jealousy, or despair is not harmless, but is planting seeds for unwanted experiences. Likewise, choosing to dwell in gratitude, joy, and confidence is not mere positive thinking, but a deliberate act of creation. The feelings you sustain are the bridges the universe must cross to deliver to you the corresponding reality. Inner speech and feeling work hand in hand. The words you repeat to yourself shape the direction of your feeling, and the feeling you entertain gives power to the words. Together, they form the command that the universe cannot resist. When you fill your inner conversations with the voices of praise, success, and fulfillment, and you allow yourself to feel the reality of those conversations, you are building a bridge that no obstacle can destroy. The unseen forces of life begin to move, arranging events with a precision that will astonish you when you see them unfold. This is why the discipline of imagination is so vital. To let your inner speech wander unchecked is to hand your creative power over to chance. But when you take hold of it, when you deliberately choose the dialogues you carry within and marry them to the feelings of fulfillment, you step into the role of conscious creator. No longer are you tossed about by outer conditions, because you know that outer conditions are only the shadow of inner states. Many wonder why their desires seem delayed, not realizing that their inner speech contradicts their outer efforts. They may affirm prosperity in the morning, but spend the rest of the day inwardly rehearsing lack and worry. They may visualize love at night, but fill their imagination with silent arguments and suspicions by day. The universe does not respond to occasional moments of wishful thinking. It responds to the dominant inner speech and the sustained feeling behind it. When both align with your desire, manifestation is inevitable. Feeling is the substance that transforms assumption into fact. Without it, assumptions remain abstract ideas. With it, assumptions become living realities. It is through feeling that the invisible becomes tangible. You may imagine yourself standing in a beautiful home, but until you feel the security, the warmth, the satisfaction of living there, the image remains distant. The moment you allow yourself to feel that it is already so, you bridge the gap, and the universe begins to mirror it back. Guard, then, both your inner words and your inner feelings. They are not idle. They are not wasted. They are the blueprint of the life you are building. Choose them with care, for they are the very substance of creation. When you change your inner speech, you change your world. When you master your feeling, You master the bridge between desire and fulfillment. Do not wait for the outer world to grant you permission to believe in what you desire. If you stand idle, waiting for conditions to line up, waiting for proof before you dare to assume, you will wait forever. The law of creation is reversed from the way most people imagine it to be. The world says achieve first, then feel accomplished. The world says find love first, then feel loved. The world says gain wealth first, then feel secure. Yet the truth is the opposite. You must begin with the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of being loved, the feeling of security. Before the outer proof arrives, you start with the end already achieved in your imagination, and life must reorganize itself to match the inner state you have claimed. When you accept the end as already true, you are no longer a beggar hoping for change. You are a creator commanding change. You are not waiting for evidence to justify your faith. You are letting faith itself become the evidence. This is why those who live by the law seem so confident, so unshaken by appearances. They have learned that appearances are only shadows, and shadows must give way to the light of an assumption held with persistence. Consider a person who desires a new career. If he waits for the right opportunity before daring to feel employed, confident, and successful, he is bound to circle endlessly in doubt. But if he dares to imagine himself already in the role, already respected, already thriving, he shifts the entire balance of his being. That shift sends out an unseen vibration that the universe cannot ignore. People, places, and circumstances begin to move in ways that no amount of anxious striving could produce. This is the law of reversal in action. It is the same in matters of health. The one who continually identifies as sick, waiting for the doctor's report to allow her to feel well, is bound to remain trapped in that state. But the one who dares to assume wellness now, to feel vitality in her body even before it appears, plants the seed for restoration. The body responds to the command of consciousness, and the universe begins to orchestrate conditions that echo her assumption. This reversal is not pretending. Pretending is weak because it carries the awareness that it is false. Reversal is powerful because it accepts the end as fact, here and now. When you live from the end, you are not straining or wishing. You are resting in the certainty that the inner state is the cause, and the outer world must reflect it in time. To live in this way requires courage, for it often means standing against appearances. It means looking at an empty bank account and assuming wealth. It means looking at loneliness and assuming companionship. It means looking at weakness and assuming strength. At first the senses will mock you, but if you remain faithful to the end in imagination, the senses will eventually be forced to confirm it. The world has no choice but to bend to the sustained assumption of one who knows the law. Once you grasp this principle, you see the futility of chasing outer conditions. You understand that nothing out there can ever change until something in here has changed. The world is plastic to your assumption. Reverse the order. Begin with the end. Live now as though it were already so. That is the only way to compel the universe to deliver it. Now understand that the greatest power is not found in loud declarations or dramatic demonstrations. The greatest power is multiplied in silence. The most transformative work is done not in the noise of the outer world, but in the quiet of your inner chamber. When you whisper within yourself, "It is done," with deep conviction, you release a force that is irresistible. Silence is not weakness. Silence is concentration. Silence is the womb of creation. In the stillness of your imagination, you plant the seed that will later appear as fact. You do not need to announce your desires to others, nor do you need to seek validation from the outside. To speak loudly of what you want while doubting inwardly only scatters energy, but to hold your assumption in quiet confidence multiplies its strength 100-fold. Think of the seed buried in the ground. It does not shout. It does not make a display of its growth. It works in silence, drawing life from the invisible until it bursts forth as visible form. Your assumptions work the same way. When you plant them in silence, when you protect them from the noise of doubt and contradiction, they grow in secret until the day they stand undeniable before all. Many weaken their desires by talking too much about them. They speak to others seeking approval or reassurance, and in doing so, they expose the tender seed of assumption to the winds of doubt. Another's disbelief can plant seeds of uncertainty in your own mind, but if you keep the vision in silence, if you let the conviction take root within, then no outer voice can disturb it. The silence becomes the soil in which the assumption thrives. This is why some of the most life-changing transformations appear to come suddenly, as if out of nowhere. In truth, they were being prepared in silence all along. The person who seemed to struggle for years may suddenly appear prosperous. The one who seemed lonely may suddenly be surrounded by love. To others it looks like chance. But the one who understands knows that the seed was planted long ago in the silence of imagination, watered with conviction, and allowed to grow undisturbed. Learn to value this quiet power. When you go to bed at night, let your inner speech be a silent declaration of your wish fulfilled. When you rise in the morning, let the first thoughts you entertain be those of the end already achieved. Do not waste energy arguing with appearances. Withdraw into the silence of your mind, assume the state desired, and feel it as fact. That inner act, repeated in stillness, will do more to change your world than any amount of struggle in the outer. Silence is not idleness. It is the most creative activity you can undertake. Each time you withdraw from noise and claim your desire within, you are bending reality toward you. Each time you resist the urge to speak of lack or failure, and instead affirm quietly to yourself, "It is done," you are shaping the unseen currents of life. The more faithfully you do this, the faster the universe responds. The law of reversal and the power of silence walk hand in hand. Begin with the end in imagination, not the beginning in appearances. Hold it quietly, faithfully, until the world reflects it. The reversal places you in command, and the silence multiplies your command. Together they form an unshakable practice, one that places you beyond the reach of chance or circumstance. Imagination is not a fleeting daydream nor a child's pastime. It is the very center of creation, the living presence of the divine within you. Every time you imagine with feeling and persistence, you are engaging in an act of creation. You are not pleading with an external force to intervene on your behalf. You are exercising the power of God that resides in your own consciousness. This is why imagination is not something to dismiss as fanciful or unreal. What you imagine with conviction today becomes the reality you inhabit tomorrow. It is the unseen force that shapes everything visible. If you take a moment to look at your life as it stands, you will see the fingerprints of your imagination everywhere. The job you hold, the relationships you sustain, the environment you live in. All these were once only thoughts, ideas, or images in your mind. At some point, you entertained them, accepted them, and allowed yourself to dwell in them long enough for them to harden into fact. The outer world may appear solid and independent, but its roots are buried deep in the soil of imagination. To change the outer, you must first change what you are imagining inwardly. The mistake many make is believing that imagination is weak compared to so-called reality. They think that because they cannot see the imagined state with their physical eyes, it has no power. But everything visible once lived in the invisible. The house was once only a sketch. The invention was once only a thought. The great achievements of history were once the visions of men and women who dared to honor imagination as reality long before others could see it. Those who dismiss imagination as unreal are unknowingly dismissing the very substance out of which all reality is formed. To imagine is to intervene. When you dare to step into the scene of your fulfilled desire and live from it inwardly, you are not indulging in idle fantasy. You are moving the currents of reality itself. You are setting in motion forces that will reshape circumstances and draw to you the exact people and opportunities required for that imagined scene to come alive in your outer world. Imagination is divine intervention because the divine expresses itself through you as imagination. When you understand this, you no longer wait for help from outside. You do not pray to a distant God in a hope that something will change. You turn inward to the imagination, and there you find the source of all creation. You realize that God is not far off in the heavens, but present in every act of imagining. Every time you assume the wish fulfilled and persist in that state, you are exercising the very power that spoke the universe into being. Yet imagination must be sustained. A passing thought has little effect. It is the state you continually return to, the scene you rehearse again and again with feeling, that takes root. If you are inconsistent, moving back and forth between imagining your desire fulfilled and fearing its absence, you send mixed commands. The universe does not ignore you. It simply mirrors the state you most persistently occupy. This is why persistence in imagination is so essential. To live in imagination is to let the end become more real to you than the evidence of the senses. Living in imagination requires discipline. The senses will present you with facts that contradict your inner vision. If you allow those facts to rule, you abandon the creative act. But if you remain faithful to what you have imagined, if you continue to feel its reality even when the outer denies it, you will see in time that the outer world has no choice but to conform. Imagination rules the senses, not the other way around. The final step of mastery is to live in the end. To live in the end is to occupy, night and day, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is to walk through life as though what you desire is already fact. This is not about pretending or forcing. It is about quietly accepting that the desire is yours now, and allowing that acceptance to guide your thoughts, words, and actions. Living in the end is not an occasional practice. It is a state of being. When you live in the end, you no longer ask when or how your desire will come. You rest in the certainty that it is already here in the unseen, and therefore must appear in the seen. The anxiety of waiting falls away. The struggle of striving dissolves. You are no longer grasping at the future. You are dwelling in the present fulfillment. That state of fulfillment is the magnetic force that compels the outer world to align. To live in the end is to take possession of your desire before the world can give it to you. It is to dine in imagination at the banquet you long for. To wear in consciousness the garment you wish to own. To walk in the home you have claimed though your senses say otherwise. By doing this, you create the conditions for the outer world to provide what you have already accepted within. The world does not lead, it follows. It must rearrange itself to mirror the end you have dared to occupy. This living in the end must be practiced with persistence. At first, it may feel unnatural to accept as true what your senses deny, but the more you return to it, the more natural it becomes, until finally it feels more real to you than the outer facts. When the inner acceptance outweighs the outer denial, the outer world is compelled to shift. This is the law, unchanging and absolute. Many fail because they dip in and out of the end. They live in the fulfillment for a few minutes, then quickly return to worrying, doubting, and fearing. But the one who remains steadfast, who continually returns to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, will inevitably see the harvest. Persistence in the end state is the difference between wishful thinking and creative mastery. Living in the end does not mean ignoring the world around you. It means engaging with the world from a different center. You may still go to work, meet people, and take actions, but you do so from the inner conviction that what you desire is already yours. This conviction colors everything you do, and in turn draws to you the conditions that match it. When you live in the end, you cease to chase after results, and results begin to chase after you. The beauty of this practice is that it does not require force. You do not need to push, plead, or manipulate. You simply dwell in the state of fulfillment, and life responds. The outer world cannot resist the sustained assumption of one who knows the law. To live in the end is to hold the invisible reality with such faith that the visible has no choice but to follow.